And welcome to the Cocodona 250 Live, presented by Salomon. We are just 1 hour away from the inaugural Cocodona 250, where 176 runners are going to be embarking on an epic 255.8-mile journey from Black Canyon City to Flagstaff, Arizona. And we are super stoked. We're actually coming at you live from Phoenix, Arizona at the Aravaipa Running headquarters. We'll be taking you out to the start line in a bit. Again, we have an hour before the start of the race, so we're going to talk about all the runners out there. We've got a stacked field, but first, let's introduce ourselves. I am Riccardo. I'm the marketing director here at Aravaipa.
I'm Matt Feldhake. I am your virtual events director here at Aravaipa, and I'm excited to be here, Rob, and to embark on this broadcast journey that is going to be just as epic as what these runners are about to undertake.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to be going live every day. Well, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we're going to be capturing as much of the front of the pack as we can, and it is going to be quite fun. We're going to go all the way till 10 p.m. tonight, 10 p.m. Arizona time. So, yeah, we've got a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. We're going to check in with a lot of people out there. We've got a correspondent at the start line. But first, you and I have been working a lot, like everybody here at Aravaipa has been working like so hard on this race. But, we've been looking at like a really stacked field. Let's just jump right in off the bat because there's so many people we could talk about. Let's talk about our picks, and so people can start to get to know the field.
Yeah, so like you said, Rob, this field is incredibly stacked on both the men's and women's side, and it's really going to make it for a super exciting day. And so I'll go ahead and just get into who I think is someone to watch at the front of the pack and who I have tagged as kind of my favorite to win the race, and that is the Speedo-wearing speedster himself, Coury Woltering. I think that Coury obviously has an immense amount of talent, right? Oh, yeah. He's competed at some of the biggest races in the world. He's competed at the Western States 100. Recently set the FKT on the Pinhoti Trail, and that's what gives me a lot of excitement about what Coury can do today. He's experienced coming out here to Arizona. I think he's got a lot of potential to be up near the front of the pack. And then Coury is an Illinois guy. I was born and raised in the wonderful state of Illinois, and there's something about grinding through those Midwest winters. There's something just different about living in the middle of cornfields and having to train for some of these epic adventures. And, what Coury is doing means a lot to me, showing that people who come from where I came from, corn and bean fields in the middle of a flyover state, can do really awesome stuff. And so He's my pick to win the race. And I do have a little concern with what Pinhoti just a few weeks ago took out of his legs, but he says he's going to be ready, and right. I have no doubt in my mind that Coury's going to be ready to run up near the front of this field.
Yeah, I talked to him before the race just a few days ago, and he just said he's feeling amazing after the Pinhoti Trail. And let's actually break down the Pinhoti Trail a little bit just for our viewers. That's a 339-mile trail in the southeast, and it's no walk in the park. It's we're both actually, I'm from the East Coast originally. You have lived on the East Coast. You've run on that trail. That's a pretty technical trail, and it's very different from the trails they're going to be seeing today.
Yeah. So having lived in Georgia for, the last 6 years prior to moving to Arizona, I was fortunate enough to have run on the Pinhoti Trail, a number of times more on the eastern side of the trail. And there are some sections of that trail that are really gnarly. Yeah. And so it's not just some buttery smooth single track that's like rolling hills in the south, in the Bible Belt there. It's really gnarly in some spots. You're running through boulder canyons and boulder fields. It's pretty rugged going. And so for him to have accomplished what he accomplished on that trail, setting a new FKT, I think it prepares him for a lot of the terrain that he's going to see early on in the race, especially today, where you have a lot of rocky, technical, loose terrain.
Right.
And he has experience out here in Arizona with some races as well.
Well, that's the thing. Well, keep in mind, he ran Pinhoti because he pulled out of – he originally was going to go for the FKT on the Arizona Trail. And he had a back injury, And he's like, well, I can't do the Arizona Trail is an 800-mile trail that stretches from Mexico to Utah. And speaking of the Arizona Trail, though, we do have not one, not two, but three former Arizona Trail FKT holders, which we'll get to. But we have to talk about like we bring up people like Coury because the runners that favor like a stage race kind of approach or a long trail FKT kind of approach. This course really favors that. We'll get into the course. We'll break down like every element of the course. There's just so many runners, and I think Coury's a solid pick for that. And that similar to that. And speaking of the Arizona Trail, as we were saying, my pick on the men's side of the race is Michael Versteeg. I got to go for Versteeg.
Definitely a solid pick. The whiskey man himself.
The whiskey man himself, local to Prescott. He knows the course super well. He up until very recently he had the FKT on the Arizona Trail for the supported FKT, and he had a lightning fast 15 days and a little over 15 days. Of course, it was just broken by String Bean Joe McConaughey. About a month ago, 13 days 3 hours, which is a very stout time. And I talked to Mike before the race, and he was just telling me that he can't wait to get on these trails, and he's going to go for it. He's going to leave it all out there. And I saw the fire in his eye. The race is going to go past his house in Prescott. So
yeah,
it's
definitely a solid pick. One thing that makes Versteeg really interesting is he has like a really good combination of having this Arizona Trail FKT or having had this Arizona Trail FKT, but also he was fourth at the Run Rabbit Run 100-miler in 2019. Right. He's won the Mogollon Monster 100. Like, he can run as well, and I think that combination is going to play really well in a race like this.
Yeah, and he the thing is, like, this course is so diverse. So you're going to start the runners right now. They're in Black Canyon City, which is about 45 minutes north of here in Phoenix. So it's still, you're on the outskirts of the Sonoran Desert. So there's saguaro cactus. It gets hot. And then they're going to climb up into the Bradshaw Mountains. So you're up at elevation. You're in the Ponderosa Pines. And then you dip back down into, the next notable section is you're dipping into Sedona. So you're in Red Rock Canyons. You're back. It's a little more hot. It's hotter than it is up in the Crown King area and the Bradshaws. And then you're climbing back up, and you're on the Coconino Plateau for Flagstaff. So I think this course really favors like local Arizonans or people that spend a lot of time out here. So
yeah, I think some form of familiarity with the course is going to be important. But in turn, you also have to have the fitness to be able to sustain 250 plus miles. Like that undertaking, in my mind, is insane. And I think for a lot of people tuning in, thinking of traversing 250 plus miles, 255 miles on foot is crazy.
Right.
And it's an amazing adventure, and I think nothing replaces fitness, right? But definitely having an understanding for the course is going to help.
Right. And speaking of 250 miles, though, I'm just going to jump to my top pick for the women, Maggie Gutierrez. No stranger to running 250 miles.
No, definitely not. I think that she may have one of the most impressive performances, just single performances of any participant in this field, man or woman,
right?
With her win at Big's Backyard in 2019, I believe. Her outright win, running 250 miles in 60 hours in a last person standing type format where, you're essentially forced to take breaks, right? Like you run 4.1 odd miles every hour on the hour. And so that singular performance might be one of the best in the field. And so definitely a solid pick on the women's side. Definitely has like that name value as a very established runner in the trail and ultra running community. So definitely a really solid pick on the ladies' side.
Absolutely. So what about you? What are you thinking?
I'm going a little bit different kind of route, staying true to my Midwestern roots here.
Of course.
On the ladies' side, I'm going with Jody Seminole. She's a Nebraskan. Again, there's something about just being kind of Midwest tough and having to endure, all of the different elements, all of the different seasons of the year. There's something about being in a flyover state and having really hot summers and cold winters and dealing with snow that just, it's different. But how is she going to deal with the altitude? She was the second-place finisher at the 2020 Moab 240, so she also has experience in these 200-mile distances. She was the 2019-2020 across the years 200-mile champion here. That's an Aravaipa race. Starts at the end of December in 2019, culminates in early January of 2020. And then she's run Western States. She finished 28th at Western States in 2019. So she has some big 100 experience. Yeah. She has, experience, and I don't think the heat is going to be an issue for someone who understands what that's like and has the experience in some of these bigger races. So I think she'll be ready. I think there's so many really talented women in this field that it's hard to really say like, oh, this person is definitely like the favorite to win. Like this women's field is absolutely loaded with people who have a lot of 200-plus mile experience, people who don't but have FKT experience or big 100 experience. Like there are a lot of just really strong women in this field, and so I'm excited to really follow along. And I think there's a dozen women you could have picked to be your favorite to kind of be the top female and to even potentially win this outright. Like I don't think that's out of the question.
There's no you don't even need to say potentially, right? Because like that's the thing about long distance races, any races, but especially we see it time and time and time again. These 200-plus mile races. What I love about these races so much is for many reasons, it's a complete equalizer. It doesn't matter what kind of runner you are, whether if you have a 2:30 marathon PR, there's people out there that may have like a 4+ hour marathon PR, but they have FKTs on long trails, and it's like. It's on a shorter race, you'd look at that and be like, no, just no way, that doesn't check out. But that's the thing about that. And then as far as we get into the habit of saying like, oh, the men's side of the race and the female side of the race, and that we assume that a lot they're going to be separate podiums. It's like we're seeing that's not happening. That's so exciting. I mean, we're even seeing it on the shorter races, so it's pretty amazing. I want to talk about our dark horse and wild card picks, but first we're actually going to get some scenes from the start line. We actually have Chris Worden out there right now. You're looking at that is the start line for Cocodona, and again it is 4:14 a.m. local time here in Arizona, and the first wave of the race is going to go off at 5 a.m. so we are about 46 minutes away from the start. Let's actually check in. Let's see if Chris is out there. Chris, are you out there right now?
I am out here. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you doing today?
Oh, we're doing fantastic. Good. What can you just tell us what the scene's like? What's the energy like? How's the weather out there this early out in Black Canyon City?
The weather feels great right now. I would say it's probably about maybe about 59, 60 degrees. Runners are slowly starting to make their way towards the registration area and also to the, as you can see, the start-finish line where they're taking photos in preparation for what is going to be, for many of them, the biggest event they've ever participated in. We'll take a quick spin around to the start-finish line. There's really not a ton of activity yet, but we know that things will start to pick up as time goes on. As I mentioned, the weather, right now it feels great. And that's actually something that kind of makes me concerned for some of the runners. Because as you well know, if it feels great at 3, 4 in the morning, chances are that by the time things are really going about 9 or 10, it could be cooking out there. And the first part of the course, which I'm sure we'll get to be, which we'll preview here shortly, that first part of the course is not going to be easy.
Right.
There's a long stretch between aid stations, and it's also one of the biggest climbs in the entire course. I mean, this race spits you out right away into some serious terrain. So I'm really kind of curious to see how the runners approach it, whether they try and, as we spoke off camera, in the days leading up, whether they're going to try and hurry up the hill, or if they're going to try and conserve energy, because obviously they've got 255 miles ahead of them. And
Right.
the way they approach the very first day is going to be vital to their success.
Absolutely. Yeah, Chris, I mean, you said that perfectly right there. That first 50K, that first 55K is going to be, it's arguably the most challenging part of the course, given the heat factor. And you'll, for all the viewers out there, you will hear us talking about this section of the course for the next few hours while the runners are, once they start actually embarking on that section. But, we know this part of the trail really well here at Aravaipa because the start line is actually the finish line of the Black Canyon 60K and the Black Canyon City mile 37 aid station for the Black Canyon 100K. So, all of our staff, we spend a lot of time out on that trail, and it's pretty close to Phoenix, and it gets hot there quickly. We're in the Sonoran Desert, and the sun just cooks people in there because there's no tree cover essentially. I mean, you got some Palo Verde and some sagebrush, not much else going on. So that sun just bounces off the Bradshaws, and by 1 p.m. you really feel it. And another thing we'll talk about a lot is, just like Chris was alluding to, some of these runners are trying to figure out, what's the game plan? There's kind of a catch-22. It's, do you go out hard to beat the heat and tackle that 9,000 feet of vert with everything you've got, leaning into your poles? Or do you take it slow, conserve yourself, get to Crown King, feeling fresh, maybe slower than a good chunk of the pack? The downside of that is, though, you're going to spend more time in that sun, because around that 12 p.m., 1 p.m., you really start to feel it.
Yeah, I think watching just the different participants' strategies play out early on in this race is going to be, critical to being able to see what like the long-term kind of look and feel of the race is going to look like. I mean, I think that if you go out too hard in the early low desert sections of this race, especially if you're not used to it, if you're a non-Arizonan. As someone who recently moved here, it's different out here. And so that can really come back to bite you quite quickly. I think that, hydration and nutrition is going to be as critical in this race as maybe more critical in this race than any other race, just based on the varying elevations, the varying temperatures. It's going to be really fun to just kind of see this unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are live right now, and we are talking about the course. So I'm going to go to our live chat. If you are on YouTube or Facebook, we're going to be able to monitor the chat right here. And we do have a question about the course, a question about what is the total elevation gain on this course. Well, we kind of know, and we'll explain that, right? So if you look at it, it's around 42,000 feet of total elevation gain over 255 miles. But here's the thing. This is the inaugural year for the Cocodona 250. Even though Jamil Coury and Anthony Culpepper have scouted the course, and race director Stephen Adderholt has been out there, we and the course has changed a bit for various reasons. Some tweaks here and there. We won't know the exact amount of vert until it's done, so we really won't know until the end of this week. But our best estimate, and this will be close, is around 42,000 feet. We originally thought it was in the 30s. So, how does that stack up against the closest comparable race, which is the Moab 240? Well, Moab is about 29,000 feet of vert, and it is a 238-mile race. So this is almost 20 miles longer and about 13,000 more feet of vert. So it's kind of comparable, but it's going to be really crazy to see how they tackle the vert out there this week.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's going to be really interesting about this race is how the vert comes and when it comes, right?
Absolutely.
So you've got a lot of big climbs and not a lot of gentle rolling climbs.
Right.
So a lot of the vert is going to come in steep, long, hard climbs, and then you've got a really tough climb in the last 10 miles of the race, which is there's no sugarcoating it. It's going to be brutal.
Yeah. The race ends with a climb up Mount Eldon in Flagstaff. We'll talk much more about that climb, but it's not an easy one. It's not the tallest mountain in Flag by any means. It looks like a hill compared to the San Francisco peaks or the Kachina peaks, and it's pretty steep. So yeah, there's a lot of climbing ahead. I will, Chris, we are going to get back to you in a bit. We actually are going to check in right now. Do you know what time it is, Matt?
Oh, it's gooder time.
It's gooder time. It's gooder time. So Gooder is one of our sponsors here, and we're super grateful for it. And Gooder's Media Megalodon, Shelby Farrell, is actually out there. Let's pull Shelby up. She is running the Cocodona 250. This is going to be her longest race. And let's pull her up right there. Shelbs, how's it going? Oh, Shelbs, you just got to unmute yourself. It's okay.
Classic.
Well, you know, you got a lot on your mind. You're about to run a pretty big race.
Yeah, I was listening to you guys talk about all the vert I have coming up. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So tell us, how are you feeling out there?
Really good. The temperature is beautiful. Yeah, eyes are wide with excitement right now.
So how much sleep did you get last night?
Rob, your audio cut out.
Okay. Audio cut out. We'll try to get back with
I
Shelby there.
can't hear you, but I can see your lips moving.
So we'll cut back to Shelby in a bit, but we do want to thank our friends at Gooder. We'll be checking in with Shelby throughout the race. If you go to gooder.com/Cocodona and use the code CocoLoco, you're going to get buy two and get one 50% off. So Shelby, we'll check in again in a bit. So these are the Gooders. These are my new jam right here.
I love them.
Yeah.
The new styles are really, really nice.
These are called Welcome to the Party, Richter, something like that. But they're my new vibe. So we're gonna get
classic.
Shelby back in a bit. Obviously, she is getting ready to run the race, so she's gonna check in while she's running, and that's gonna be a fun one. So anyway, are you ready to talk about our dark horse picks? That's actually the perfect segue.
I am ready. I'll
Yeah.
let you go just
let me go
because
for-
of how perfect that segue
And this
was.
is like my honest dark horse pick. Shelby is my dark horse pick. I think she is she may not have the resume that a lot of these other runners have, but she has an FKT on the Backbone Trail in Southern California. And she is just a really well-rounded athlete. She does a lot of CrossFit, so a lot of weight training, and she's like gritty and tough. And I talked to her husband before the race, and he just looked me in the eye and he's like, "She's gonna podium." And I was like, "Yeah." I mean, I think she's got a great chance. So shout out to Shelby.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a solid pick. She also has experience here at Aravaipa races in the desert. She's 5th place finisher at the 2020 Javelina 100. So again, an October race, late October race around Halloween. So maybe not the hottest, but as anyone who's participated in Javelina, you know that October in the desert can still get pretty dang hot.
Oh, it's still summer here.
Also being an LA area resident, she deals with the heat. So definitely a solid pick. It is going to be her debut 200. So
Yeah.